We are very appreciative of you being willing to come here and share your personal story. I know that it must be hard to do that publicly, and I want you to know that we're very grateful for you to be able to do that. So if you would like to take a few minutes and let us know about your path toward recovery.
Thank you. Good morning. My name's Alexis, and I am in recovery. I'm 35 years old, and yesterday I just celebrated 32 months of recovery. It's really funny, when I walked in here this morning and I saw the list of panelists, Judge Parais is my judge. I was like,
I'm not always so happy to see you.
There was a time that I did not want to be sober. So y'all are in for a little bit of a treat because the judge and I have been together for 8 years now. So this is a one-of-a-kind story for everybody. Judge is a great man who runs a wonderful program for people who want to be sober. And I share my story because if you look at me, the gentleman who shared before, he talked about hope, and what I got from what he shared was stigma, was breaking that stigma. When we talked about the brother, the son, the nurse, people don't want to talk about the problems they have because there's still stigma in society. To come forward and say, yes, I have a problem with heroin, to say, yes, I have a problem with opioids, or I am an alcoholic, you get judged. You know, it's that scumbag junkie, or, you know, you chose to put that needle in your arm, you deserve to die. And, you know, approaching 3 years of sobriety, I haven't had a drink since my third DUI, which was in 2009, but I still get told that I deserved what I got because of the choices that I made. And I'm going to make my story very brief. It's a very long story, but to see where I'm at today, it's been a very rocky road. I grew up in a great family. I'm the youngest of 5 brothers, 4 sisters. 5 sisters, 4 brothers. I'm the youngest by 17 years. My father's 85 and battling blood cancer. He is very sick right now. I was spoiled rotten, but in order to understand how I got to wanting to numb the pain, I am very fair-colored, and growing up in school, I was tortured. I was called albino. I was miserable. I wanted to be anybody but myself. So I over-excelled in school. I was straight A student. I was a virgin. I never touched a drug. I never drank, no cigarettes. My father was a raging alcoholic. I wanted Dad to come home, so I did everything to get his attention. So I over-excelled. Went to college, went to Penn State, joined a sorority, had my first DUI 2.5 months later. So I had my first DUI at the age of 18, and the first 2 drugs I tried were ecstasy and cocaine, because I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be a part of something. The sorority, the cocaine, the alcohol, the fraternity parties, and the ecstasy all put that together. So fast forward a couple of drunken years in college, I spent my last semester abroad in London. I got to travel all through Europe. Graduated in 2005 with an A average in criminal justice. I have a double minor in sociology and liberal arts. Wanted to go to law school, took my LSATs. Symbolic logic and I did not get along. I just can't wrap my head around that. You know, A is greater than B equals C. But yeah, no. I tried, but I started working as a bartender / waitress at a bar in Park Summit, and the gentleman who was the restaurant manager was dealing cocaine out of that bar when he was working. We were getting the cocaine delivered to the restaurant in pizza delivery boxes, so my cocaine habit had picked back up again. In 2006, I got arrested for my second DUI. I was pulled over on a technicality, and my lawyer and I fought it. We had basically won. So my second DUI got treated like my first, meaning I got ARD for the second time. 6 months probation, I got a slap on the wrist. In 2007, I was dating a gentleman, and I got pregnant. I was doing massive amounts of cocaine and drinking at the time, and we had decided to have an abortion. So in April of 2007, I did have an abortion. And it's ironic now because in 2014, I had a hysterectomy. So I can't have children. It was a very hard time in my life. but there was no way I could have brought a child into the world doing what I was doing. In 2008, I had met a gentleman at the bar I was working, and we were completely toxic for each other. He was very big into cocaine and drinking, and at the time we were perfect for each other. We meshed well. This is where it gets a little hard because this gentleman I'm speaking about just had an overdose 2 weeks ago, and he was my ex-fiance at that point. And so, July 3rd of 2009, him and I had started drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we drank until 2 o'clock. I was also a heavy gambler. I had the black card at Mohegan Sun. I was ruined. And I got on the turnpike thinking it was 81. I smashed into the toll booth, turned around, pulled over. I was like, I should probably check the front end of my car. I did not have my hazards on. State troopers pulled up. I blew a .289. I was 3.5 times the legal limit. That was God working in my life, because if I got on 81, I probably would have killed somebody or myself. So that was my third DUI. Hired a really good lawyer. Judge Durallo, another great man, did not send me to jail. I had worn the alcohol bracelet for 10 months. I was doing AA, and I'm here to be honest, so there might be some things that shock you, and I'm sorry, but this is why I share my story in hopes that it helps you guys understand. When you wear an alcohol bracelet, they don't test for drugs. So my drug habit got really out of hand. I was doing pills, I was doctor shopping, I was getting 600 Percocet prescribed a month, I was working 3 doctors, I was pharmacy shopping, I was a wreck. So they weren't testing levels, there was nothing going on, I was just getting tested for alcohol. My third DUI was only alcohol related. I was holding down jobs, I was functioning, there was no reason to look any other way. December of 2010. Earlier that year, there was 4 of us. It was Brian, myself, Katie, and her boyfriend Lou. They had been into heroin. I was like, there is no way you're getting me to touch heroin. That is a scumbag drug. There's no way. I'm OxyContin all the way. And when the government changed the makeup of OxyContin, a lot of people questioned how the heroin habit got so bad. When they stopped making it snortable is when all of the drug addicts switched to heroin, because you couldn't get high fast enough. So in 2010, we started to see the heroin addiction rise dramatically, because nobody could get high off the OxyContin. You couldn't snort it anymore. Well, there goes that. Heroin's $10 a bag. So all of the addicts were going over to to heroin. So my ex walks into the bar I was working at, and he's like, I did heroin. I was like, don't talk to me. Like, I'm not doing this. 3 days later, I snorted heroin. I said, oh, I'm never shooting it. You know, that's not going to happen. 2 weeks later, I was shooting heroin. And I'll never forget that first time. It is what they say. It's that feeling, that rush. There's nothing to describe what a heroin high is. It's the devil. There's just no way to describe it. My father found me overdosed for the first time in December of 2010. I was cold blue on the floor. That was my first of 7 overdoses. I have flatlined twice. I have been locked up on 7 different occasions. The judge has sent me to Muncie for a mental health evaluation. I overdosed in 2012 twice in 4 hours. I was in the back of a cop car and swallowed a bunch of pills because I knew I was going back to prison and I was going to go back as high as I could. I flatlined in the back of a cop car and they had to bring me back with a shot of Narcan to my jugular and my neck. And the officer who arrested me that day said that him and I are very close friends today. He said he's never seen anything like it. He has no idea how I'm alive and walking. I had 2.5 years sober. Recovery was my life. State prison did scare me. It didn't do anything for me recovery-wise, but it scared the crap out of me. I did not want to be there. In September of 2014, I was having some female problems, and I found out I had to have a hysterectomy. So I had spoken with my doctor. I said, I'm in recovery. She knew that. Right before they wheeled me back, she said, I'm going to send you home with Percocet. Well, you tell that to an addict, I'm taking it. So I woke up, and they sent me home with Percocet, and I respected that script for 3 weeks. I took those pills every 4 hours. I took one every 4 hours. When that script was over, that mental obsession kicked in that they talk about. And my pride and ego got in the way, and I didn't ask for help because I was mis-recovery beforehand, you know. I didn't want to let anybody know that I had fallen, and I was too scared to ask for help. And I was playing the victim mentality of the hysterectomy, and I felt worthless, and that pain and that suffering, and I just let it get to me. You know, I take full accountability for it because I allowed it to happen. I went on a 9-month to the day relapse. I went through $60,000 of my money. I had had a good job at Ford Motor Company. I got fired. I got evicted from my apartment. I nodded off twice and set my apartment on fire. By the end, I was shooting 50 bags of heroin a day. I was smoking an 8-ball of crack a day. I had a $600 a day habit. I have scars all over my arms. Both of my veins were blown out. I took an X-Acto knife to my face and ripped my face apart. I have pictures in my phone where if you've ever talked to a crack addict, sometimes they pick. I took a knife and just started ripping my face apart. And I have scars all over my face from it. The jail actually had to treat me with Silvadene burn cream for the scars on my neck and my face. So my story, and I share it because at one point, some people had given up. They didn't know what to do with me. Not all, but some. My poor father cried. He didn't think I was going to live. And my story is that there's nobody beyond hope. I work now with Kevin Gill. He's over there. He's a director for the Police Athletic League. We are actually meeting with the DEA to bring programs to teens and to start doing the preventative care that you spoke about, because I believe that's where it starts. I do have some ideas to help for how, with the problem now with safe injection sites, with needle exchange programs, with all of these things. And yeah, we might not want to talk about it, but it's real and it needs to be talked about because this problem is not getting better. I went through the Salvation Army for a year, and there were 60-year-old men in there that didn't know how to write a check. So then these people complete these programs and they go back out into the streets with no life skills. We need better aftercare programs. People can't be going back to the same environment and then expect to stay sober. You know, it boils down to mental health. I hated who I was at one point, and I didn't want to be sober. You know, at the end of the day, the person has to want to be sober, but we can give them the tools. You know, I was in prison 7 times, but you know what? I'm almost 3 years sober now. It doesn't matter how many times you fall, it's that we give you the tools to get back up. I am so blessed for the life I have today. You know, I just quit my 6-figure-a-year job to pursue motivational speaking. I have dedicated my life to this. I've lost 16 friends to heroin. 16. You know, I do this day and night, and I'm not going to stop until we find a solution, because there is one. I am so blessed to be here on this panel. Thank you so much for having me, and that's my story.
All right, well, I think we can all go home now. Alexis, thank you so very much for sharing that story and for your bravery to be here today. Thank you. And let's talk a little bit about what actually is addiction from a medical perspective. And Dr. Vrana, could you help address that for us? Could you describe for us what addiction is for the body and how it responds to these chemicals?